Welcome to Aging Untold. More and more older adults are either staying in the workforce or returning to it. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, in 2024, about 1 in 4 U.S. workers was age 55 or older, and roughly 1 in 5 people age 65 and over were still participating in the labor force. Sam, what's driving more and more seniors back to work?
Money. They're going back to work because they're realizing that they didn't save enough or they didn't have enough, and the expenses and the costs are just increasing more and more and more. And they're unfortunately oftentimes having to go back to work. I always like to look at it like this. Retirement's new. Retirement didn't exist. It's a fairly new concept. 1935 is when Social Security was enacted, and that's when we really started thinking that retirement was a goal. It used to be prior to that, we would work and maybe we had a laborious job, but we became the mentors. We became the teachers as we aged, and we taught the younger folks how to do those laborious jobs. So, retirement, you shouldn't have to work until you drop. That's not what anybody should have to do. But you shouldn't be put out to pasture either. I think there's a lot of good running at retirement age. You got a few races left.
When we used to do that, when we used to teach people afterwards, were they still getting paid? Because right now, this fixed income, it's very fixed, but inflation is very real. It's really an imbalance for a lot of people. Now, some people have calculated and estimated that, they're doing well financially, and they just don't want to stay home. They're retiring from what they were used to doing, but they're moving on to a new passion.
Sure. And yeah, they would move into those mentoring positions, and they were still paid positions. They still contributed to society, and the young people got to learn from the elders, which is truly what we're there for. We're there to train up and teach that next generation.
Mm-hmm. I remember I was at an event, and I was not at the height of my career, but kind of winding it down. And I was asked by this woman that I know, she said, "Are you still working?" And I said, "Why are you asking that?" Like, I was just kind of put off by it, like, why wouldn't I? And I think about the judgment people have on what people do. Mm-hmm. So I've had people in my life that have worked 20 years for the military or for a company and then decided they were going to do something else. I have another friend of mine who worked really, really hard. She retired at 55, and now she's volunteering just as hard as she was working. And people have judged her for that, but I like to think, do it on your own terms. Do it on your own terms. If you leave a high-powered job and you want to lay low for a little bit, lay low. Let your body kind of adjust to a new thing. But if you want to work again, let's let go of all the judgment.
I agree.
Well, it's very difficult to re-enter the workforce if you've left it. And so sometimes people will say, we retired too early. And then it's really difficult to figure out, well, I don't know how I can do anything that would actually make money.
There's a thing called age discrimination also.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there
age
is.
Discrimination.
Absolutely, it exists.
And so if you want to continue meaningful income, you might try to stay in there. Now, this is so controversial because people will really tap back and say, wait a minute, I hated my job. It was literally killing me. Okay, well, if it's a job you hate, leave it. Is there something else you would enjoy doing? It might be a different work altogether. It might be volunteering, but it's more about today, I think, rewire versus retire.
We can't discount that. Sadly, we have positioned ourselves in a place where you have to work as long as you can. Mm-hmm. Even many people that have had good careers and saved and made a lot of money, the expenses of aging are just growing and growing and growing. Home care is expensive. Assisted living is expensive. Moving is expensive. All of those things add up. And if you're not, I have a lady that's been hitting me up to come back to work, and she's in her 80s. She's in her advanced 80s, and she's wanting to come back as a caregiver so she can pay her property taxes.
Right.
And that to me is just, why do we have somebody that's on the south side of 90 that's still having to worry about whether or not they can do something for gainful employment?
Or you have the person that's 90 that I had, and she was working as a nursing aide, and she loved it.
Yeah.
So there's just all kinds of different ways to be retired.
So really all comes down to us.
Yeah.
And what you can do to be creative and have flexibility and create the kind of retirement or continued career that you want to have.
That's exactly
Yeah.
right.
Yep.
So we're about solutions. We're also about empowerment. This is Aging Untold, and we'll be right back.